Ho 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 people, Mongoose again, and as it is the season to be jolly, I thought I'd switch it up and just change it around and do a bit of a Christmas theme this week. So yeah, Christmas. Now it means a lot to everybody, obviously. To me, it's about friends and family, and of course I've got 2 young children, so it's just a manic time in my household, and of course copious amounts of alcohol and, you know, loads to eat. That's what Christmas means to me. But another thing that I associate with Christmas, of course, is gaming. Now you might think, why would I do that? But growing up, I was always getting games and the latest games consoles. So what I thought I'd do is just take you down a trip down Christmas memory lane, you know, some ghosts of Christmas past, and just take us to, you know, a fond memory that I have related to games and Christmas. So yeah, I'll maybe ask you to help us out a bit at the end of the video. But yeah, I'll take you back. It was the middle of December, 1997, and I was asked by my dad what I'd like for Christmas. And without hesitating, I instantly said I wanted a PlayStation. Now, I'd been after one for ages. I think I'd played my Super Nintendo to death. At this point, they'd been out for 2 years, so they were pretty reasonably priced now. I mean, back then, my dad couldn't afford to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds on consoles, so we usually had to wait a couple of years for the price to drop a bit. But I eventually got one. Now, I remember the middle of December in particularly, because he asked us what I'd like. And basically told him the PlayStation, and within days he'd gone and bought the PlayStation and getting a really good deal with a bundle of games, and I'll talk about them in a bit. But yeah, I knew about this, and I always knew where my dad used to hide the Christmas presents. So basically every single time my dad left the house, he might be walking the dog, popping to the shop for a packet of tabs or something, and I'd be in that cupboard, and I wouldn't touch it. It wasn't wrapped up or anything, but I would just stare at this PlayStation and just, you know, just salivate over it. I was just so desperate to get my hands on it, and I can't really remember a Christmas that I was ever that excited. Now, given this time, I would have been 13 years old in 1997, so you would have thought the magic of Christmas had passed us by, but no, I was very excited to get my PlayStation this year. And like I say, I was in my dad's room, in his wardrobe, constantly just looking at this box PlayStation and the games that came with it. I remember the Christmas Eve not being able to sleep. I think I watched Cliffhanger that night. I mean, I've got such vivid memories of this Christmas because, you know, it was just such a brilliant Christmas. Yeah, so I watched Cliffhanger that night and I eventually fell asleep, God knows what time. And I woke up in the morning, I knew what I was getting. So I went downstairs. Obviously that was my big present. I opened all my little presents and then got my big present, and it was the PlayStation. It came packaged with 4 games, and my dad had bought us an extra one. Now, the 4 games that came with the console, there's 3 brilliant ones and one just absolute hilarious one. So the first one I got was Tekken, the original Tekken, and I remember it was a Platinum Edition. Bearing in mind the PlayStation had been out 2 years at this point. Brilliant fighting game. The second one was a game called Courier Crisis, where you are a courier on a bike, and you kind of got like a sandbox world to roam around in, kind of similar in the way of Crazy Taxi, when you go to point delivering people, except you'd be delivering parcels. And I loved that game. I would just go into like the sandbox environment and just ride around and run people over and stuff. It was really fun. The third game I got that was in with the bundle with it was Alien Trilogy. Now, I love the Alien franchise, and so did my dad. We used to watch them all the time, and I remember that Christmas, that was the first game I put on, and were just blown away by, you know, the CG cutscenes at the start, which basically just recreate the Aliens film, like the second in the series, and that's probably my favourite one. And I remember we'd just been blown away. And my dad wasn't a big gamer. I remember playing Monkey Island with him on the Amiga, but I think that's the only game I ever did with him. But he just sat that Christmas and just watched me play through Alien Trilogy, and we're just absolutely blown away by, you know, the graphics and just the sound and everything about it. Yeah. The fourth game I got in the bundle was a brilliant little platformer called Bubsy 3D. Now, even before I got the PlayStation, I knew what games came with it, and I told my friends, and all my friends ridiculed us, Bubsy's crap, but I just defended it all the way because I knew I was getting it for Christmas. Now, in hindsight, it's a friggin' terrible game, it really is. And I think after playing it back then, I probably knew that, and I didn't really go back to play it much more. But just a funny bit of crack for Christmas. Yeah, and I also got, my dad bought us a separate game. I was into racing games back then. It was V-Rally, and that was just a good rallying racing game, really, when you had your friends over and you could just gun against each other. Yeah, so like I say, I mean, that just made my Christmas, and I always remember it as just being the most special Christmas that I can remember, and the most excited I've been about Christmas. And you know, that's the kind of Christmases I try and recreate for my kids now. And it's funny how time flies, and now I'm buying them, you know, presents, or me and my partner going out and getting games and stuff for them. And it's kind of just amazing how fast time flies. But 1997, Christmas 1997, I got my PlayStation. I loved it, and that was my Christmas gaming memory. Now, what I'd like to do is ask you guys a favour, and maybe if yous have had like an amazing Christmas that you remember really fondly, whether you got a console or whether you got an amazing game that you've been waiting for. I'm sure we've all got stories about, you know, being really excited at Christmas, about getting games as presents and stuff. So I'd just like to ask you, please, if you could, just maybe, you know, make a video similar to this and just kind of tell us or tell everybody your Christmas gaming memories of when you got this game or that game or this console or that console. I just think it's really intriguing, and given, you know, it is that time of year, it's always nice to hear these, you know, nice warm-hearted stories. So anyway, I'm the Mongoose, and this has dragged on quite long enough, and I'm sweating my tits off in this hat and this air jumper. So yeah, I'll leave you like I always do to say thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed what you've seen, just maybe hit the like button, give us a comment, or even subscribe. And yeah, I'm the Mongoose, thanks very much for watching, and I'll leave you like I always do to say please subscribe.